Welcome, everybody, to another edition of Coffee and Open Source, a place to meet some new friends, have some great conversations, and maybe learn something on the way. I'm your host, Isaac Levin. If you're enjoying the conversation here, be sure to like, subscribe, follow wherever you're watching or listening. Also, if you or someone you know like to come on the show and have a chat with me, feel free to find me on whatever social media platform you're at. And if you go to isaac.r11.com, you'll find the place to find me. Well, sure, why not? The place to find me. Go to place to find me. Anyway, I'm looking forward to today's chat, talking to somebody who actually builds things with AI instead of just talks about AI, which is always an interesting experience. So my guest today is Michael Washington. Michael, do you want to say hello and introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Michael Washington. I'm a Microsoft MVP. I basically specialize in, well, Microsoft technologies and mostly Microsoft Blazor. I do a lot of blog posts on that at blazorhelpwebsite.com. And I also have an open source project that hopefully we can get into that's available at blazordata.net. Um, which is a application called Blazor Data Orchestrator. Pretty excited about that, and yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to the conversation. And before we start talking about all the great things that you've got the opportunity to build in your career, I'd like to hear from you like how you got started. Like, do you remember, Michael, the first time like technology introduced itself to you and you kind of fell in love with it?
So I was very lucky. My father worked for a subsidiary of IBM, so we got an IBM PC when it first came out,
Okay,
which was extremely unusual.
sure.
And I, of course, started playing around with it, and um, the first thing I was really able to do. So of course it came with Basica. You turned on the computer, and that's what happened. You're into Basica, and so which is the basic language, but it's Microsoft's version of it. So I was kind of playing around with that a little bit, and the first application that I created was, of course, years later, but I was probably only like 15 or 16 years old, and I used Microsoft Access
Mm,
and I created a database for my uncle's company, and just something very simple to store information. And then I was hooked, and so I was doing computer programming and computer clubs throughout high school. And I, when I went to college, however, I was a communications major because I was interested in radio, TV, and film. So that was actually my major, and that's actually what my degree is in. Um, and I was actually working in Hollywood. I live in Los Angeles, so I was working in Hollywood and I was trying to go for a film career. And what happens is this was the late 90s and the dot-com boom was happening. And there was so much money. I mean, just crazy amounts of money uh, that I, because I knew how to program computers and stuff,
sure.
I got back into, programming and making web pages and I mean, it was insane. You could make a web page and uh, make a website that was only a couple of pages and charge $1,000 for it,
Yeah.
and then something that took you like a day. I mean, the money was just insane. And then, of course, the dot-com crash happened, and actually went an entire year where I couldn't get a job.
Oh wow.
And it's ironic that the job, when I was finally able to get a job working for Toyota, it was doing Microsoft Access. So it's kind of funny. It kind of came, full circle. Um, and then I got involved in, um, so of course I was doing classic ASP in the late 90s. And then when .NET came out, I realized that that was the future.
Yeah.
And then I switched over to, and of course I was doing Visual Basic .NET, and then I switched over to C Sharp because I thought that that was the future. And then to learn C Sharp, I joined .NET Nuke, that open source,
Hmm.
and that's what got me involved in open source. And and then that got me Microsoft MVP, and yeah, so I've been a Microsoft MVP for about 19 years now.
Yeah, I mean that I think it is safe to say that you've been in the Microsoft technology stack for a very long time, right? Which, as somebody who has also been in the Microsoft technology stack for a long time, you know, eh, I challenge myself to try to learn other stacks, right? And I think one of the things that I'm curious for you, it's like, you know, how often do you feel kind of the curiosity or the intrigue to like learn like new types of technology that are like kind of outside of the Microsoft ecosystem? Is it something that you're ever interested in, or you're just like, you know, I can basically do everything that I need to do in this particular stack, and just that's fine with me?
Well, there was a period where I got into Angular,
Sure.
of course, still sitting on top of the Microsoft stack, but that was the only time I think I really, you know, because yeah, the whole Angular, making Angular sites and stuff, that's a totally different. I
Yeah.
mean, man, I mean, different culture. You know what I'm saying?
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and of course, I was very, very deep into it because there was a period of time when you needed to make websites that were very, responsive. Um, so that was pretty much, I think, the only time I really stepped out of it. Otherwise, um, Microsoft's is so big, that I really never had a situation where, what I was interested in doing or what the company I'm working for needs that we couldn't satisfy it with some sort of Microsoft product.
Yeah. Sure.
you know.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, too, like, I think I always think of myself as a generalist. Like, you know, if I need to write, you know, build something in JavaScript or I need to build something in Python, I can do it. But when I think about actually building things, I always build things a very specific way, right? Which I think is very, it's good and bad because you try to use the same hammer for every single thing, or the
Yeah.
same tool for every single thing. So
Yeah.
like, so from your perspective, like, you know, what are some of the projects that you remember going back to where you're like, oh, if I would have probably used a different framework or used a different language, I might have been a bit more successful, or I might not have had as much pain. Do you have any kind of recollections of that, or are you very
Oh,
much just like, no, I got things to work the way I want them to work?
Angular was the big thing. I'm not a JavaScript person. I'm
Hmm.
just not. I'm a person. I need this stuff to compile. I need to
Sure.
be, you know, uh, and actually, Angular is totally fine. The problem was Node. Man, Um, so there was about 4-year period, which I call the dark years for me, where I had to make these Angular websites. I had to deal with Node. I had to deal with, I first started with Webpack, and then, you know what I'm saying? That
Yeah.
whole
The ecosystem is pretty, it's pretty, um it's intense right when you get into it, that's for sure.
and unforgiving.
Yeah.
So, um, so yeah, that's the one. And so Blazor is what I really specialize in now. And Steve Sanderson is a genius. I first so Steve Sanderson is a Microsoft Distinguished Engineer, and I first was introduced to him. Obviously, he made the framework Knockout,
Yep.
um, and and then he started working for Microsoft, and then he started a thing called SPA Tools, which allowed you to try to get Angular to work inside your Visual Studio projects a
Yeah.
lot easier.
Yeah.
And that was a big lifesaver for me.
Sure.
But then he's the person who invented Blazor. And
Yeah.
Blazor's the thing that allowed me to stop doing Angular.
Yeah.
And it brought back just C sharp to
Yeah.
the front end and the back end. So, so yes, unfortunately, the one time I really stepped out of the Microsoft ecosystem to deal with Node
Yeah.
uh, and Angular, that was the only time when I feel like I didn't feel comfortable and I regret it. I really, if I could have avoided those years, I should have probably stayed with just MVC, uh, raw MVC. But there you go.
Yeah. It's funny that you mentioned like SPA tools. Like I immediately, I don't know if you ever played around with Hot Towel. I don't know if you remember Hot
Oh
Towel.
yeah, no, I remember.
Yeah.
Yep.
I was thinking about
Yep.
Hot Towel the other day. Hot Towel was it was a set of packages that was created by John Papa, who also works at Microsoft, but he's
No,
very
I know
well
him very
known.
well.
Yeah.
I
He's very well
know.
known like in the JavaScript space. And I remember like, you know, when I saw like Hot Towel, I was like, "Oh, like spa. That's so good." Like I thought the naming of it was very, very good. But similar concept where, you know, you could, you know, it just made the interface easier when you're building like .NET backends and being able to build things in the front end. And now we live in this world where, you can have, a, a JavaScript front end that hits, a .NET backend, but it also
Yep.
calls like some services that are in Python or in Go. Like,
Yep.
I think that the interoperability of technology is so seamless now compared to what it
Yeah.
was even 10 years ago, where it was
Yep.
like, oh, you're a .NET developer, oh, you're a Java developer, oh, you're a Python developer, and now it's
Or
basically,
even your front end developer
yeah,
versus the back end.
yeah,
That's especially this year with the whole AI stuff. That concept is completely gone
yeah,
with the people I work with now. There's no your front end back end. It's like, oh no, you need to, use AI and knock the whole thing out.
yeah, and I
So,
mean, and yeah, and I think too, like to go back to what you're saying about .NET Nuke, like, for folks who don't know what .NET Nuke is, it was this it basically was a spin-off of like some like a Microsoft like reference application that was built like
yep,
years ago. It was like I Buy Spy. Is that what it
I
was?
buy
Right?
spy. That's what it
Yeah.
was. Yep.
So that was like early 2000s, right? And the idea was like, oh, like there needs to be like a proper like manage or
Structure.
like yeah, like a basic CMS like
Yep.
written in .NET. And now we have a
Yep.
few of them, but like .NET
Yep.
Nuke was like one of the first ones. Coincidentally enough, like I feel like the people that started working on .NET Nuke at the beginning, like they all turned into like very well-known people in the .NET community.
Yeah.
And
.NET Nuke was more about the people than
yeah,
the technology.
sure.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so it was true what I call what truly open source is about, which is open source is about people. The
Yeah.
technology, who cares? We're using this or that, but it's about people coming
Yeah.
together for a common, purpose. That to me is what open source is about, and that's what to me what .NET Nuke was about, and that's why of course those people, we still talk to like Sean Walker, the creator of .NET Nuke. I
Yeah.
talk to him all the time. You
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. No, no, Sean's a great guy. One thing too, like when I think about you specifically is like you talk about open source like so fluently, right? Like, was .NET Nuke, was it like the first introduction you had to open source, or was there other like small things that you came
No,
across and
I
you, yeah, go ahead.
you heard about open source because I guess Linux was already out at the time, but it wasn't big. Microsoft technology was not big in open source. I mean,
Yeah.
especially around that time in the early 2000s. And I was trying to make a website for my wife, and I searched around and found .Nuke, and it was going to be, I was going to use .NET Nuke for it. And I couldn't believe all these people were giving this thing away for free. And you go on the forums, and they're like, the people are helping you out, and it just didn't make any sense.
Sure.
Like, wait, do I have to pay somebody? And I kind of felt guilty, and I was like, well, let me try to give back. And then I started making some simple tutorials on, making module development. Uh, I was making module development if you could not afford Visual Studio, because Visual Studio back then was like $2,500 or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
Um, so if you didn't have Visual Studio, couldn't because you couldn't afford it, um, I was showing how to make modules, and that was my first blog post, and that's what got me involved in the community. And then I enjoyed it; it was so fulfilling that that's when I got hooked. And like I said, it's about people. It's about the whole interaction with people, and there's no money flowing, you
Yeah.
know, and you're all just coming together to build something. So yeah, that's what got me involved in open source was the .NET New community.
Yeah, I think that the idea of, wait, you mean people are doing this for free? Like that like still to this day it's still just I still don't understand it. And I
Right,
get
exactly,
I get
exactly.
like, we do this from like, because we just love the community so much. We want to contribute, want to, we found our tribe, so to speak, right? Like we're always
Yep.
like looking for our tribes. And but I've always kind of relished in the fact that like there's so many people that are so much smarter than me that just want to donate their time, which is worth far more than mine, like to be able to give back to the community in some way. Um, and I think too, like there's no better way to really engage with somebody in tech, and this is the whole reason why I do this show. It's people start talking about the technology they love, and then they just talk for like an hour straight, and it makes my life
Yep.
super easy, right? And uh, you know, one thing too that I really appreciate about you is that whenever you talk about building things in technology or the community, like you actually have like practical background. Like you actually like build things, right? It's not like, not to knock people that create content for a job like me, where it's like, oh, look at this cool demo. It's like 2 minutes long. Like usually, like when, and I'll just say this for people, and there'll be some links at the end to talk about some of the stuff that Michael does. Like when Michael does a blog post, it's big. It's not like, a couple of paragraphs, right? Like it's big and it's got great screenshots and it's great code snippets in it. Where does that come from for you? Like where does that ability to like want to create like not very small things, but like things that are like very articulate and very robust as it comes to like explaining the why to particular things?
The drive is usually from, whoever I'm working for, whatever company I'm working for. Um, they'll have some sort of situation. No, we need a thing, and rather than try to work within the company's, bureaucracy and all that sort of stuff, I'm like, let me go off to the side.
Yeah.
Let me create blog posts because it's very fulfilling and it makes me happy. And I'm going to solve this problem. And then I'll go back to the company and go back to the developers and I'll say, okay, I did this blog post. So it's usually I'm trying to solve, you know, some issue
Yeah.
that's a real issue. Um, and so the latest one, I've been doing so many blog posts and videos on knowledge graphs.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason why that popped up was, again, we're trying to use AI, some way constructively. And it turns out that if you create a knowledge graph and you expose it to AI, rather than just using RAG. So RAG, retrieval augmented generation, that's probably what a lot of people are familiar with. And of course we use that, but there's certain things it works on and certain things it doesn't. But the knowledge graph really makes AI so powerful, the things you can do. Just one quick example was this one application that we're working on. When people are going to be a reduction in force, they there's like this all these calculations where this person bumps this person, and you have to have this huge log, and the people have to audit the log. And what I found out was if you put all that in a knowledge graph and you then expose that to the AI, it's able to just show, you know, patterns and create graphs and stuff.
Yeah.
It's just really very powerful. So when on the open source, I'm thinking a lot of people don't have the money for Neo4j and all these other things. So
Yeah.
can I make this work with just text files? And I got it to
Mm.
work. And so that's why I've been out there doing all these blog posts. If you go to blazerhelpwebsite.com, you're going to see all this stuff about knowledge graphs. I put it into my AI story builders, which is another open source project. And it's, so that's what it is.
Yeah.
It's something real business issue. I will, you know, do something in open source. And the reason why it's so detailed is I had to have it detailed enough to take it back.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I really enjoy it. I find it so fulfilling. It's like, oh my God, I want to just give this to people. I want them to use it, and I want them to, make them happy.
Yeah,
Anyway.
well, I think that that's the best way about creating things, right? Like, I think you create things for other people to consume only after a particular time that it solves the problem that you're trying to solve, right?
Right.
Yeah, I've talked to so many people that have built very large followings like open source projects. Like I've interviewed like Jimmy Bogart, and I've interviewed
Oh yeah, it's
Dennis
huge.
Doom, yeah, Dennis Doomman. I've interviewed like tons of folks like in the open source ecosystem that have built like very well known tools, and they
Yeah.
always have the same story. I built it because I had a project that needed
Yep.
something,
Yep.
and I built this thing, and I recognized like, oh, I bet other people might want this, and they put it out, and then they get all of this traction, and then they find out that it's like, oh, it's like a full-time job, like managing this open source project with all these people.
Well, luckily I haven't gotten that. Luckily, that hasn't happened to me, but
Sure,
I've
sure,
heard that
sure.
from other people.
Yeah,
Yes.
but yeah, and one of the things that you're talking about too, it's like you're talking about how like knowledge graphs and being able to just understand data substantially better than just humans reading it. Like,
Yep.
it, and we were talking about machine learning before we got started a little bit, and it's
Yep.
like, whenever you think about machine learning, it's all about like the phrase like sentiment analysis,
Yep.
right? Where it's like, oh, I have all this data and I need to get like some information from it that I can go
Yep.
take, and then maybe that helps the business, right?
Right.
And like what you described to me is like, oh, that's like the like 101 definition of like sentiment analysis.
Yep.
And it's crazy because we've been talking about in the machine learning space, like people have been like before I was born, people have been talking about machine learning and like trying to like
Yep.
gain insights from it. So what makes you think, or what's your reasoning or your thought process around, you know, why current AI tools are set up for this so much better than more traditional machine learning tools that people have been using for decades now?
So I did get involved in machine learning, oh God, maybe 8 years ago. Um, Microsoft had a machine learning studio, um, and there you're just using, basic regression to, do predictive. Basically, that's what we're trying to do. There was some applications for it, but not a lot because the problem with trying to predict the future is you can't.
Sure. Yeah, yeah. Or else
But
neither of
then when
us would
the
be
L,
here, right? We
right,
wouldn't be talking
but
on
but when the
podcasts. Yeah.
right, but when the LLMs came out, so ChatGPT first came out, I was one of the first people using it. The key there was it's the same algorithms, similar algorithms running, but when it communicates with the human using human language,
Mm, yeah.
that's the thing. That's the thing. It's just, people are like, AI is intelligent. It's not intelligent. It literally is just a calculation, folks. But because it communicates with the human using human language, people just personify it and just it's a you know,
Yeah.
and that's very powerful. And so like I said, that thing I was telling you about before, where the knowledge graph is created, which allows the AI to see the entire domain versus where RAG you're only um, bringing a subset of
Yeah.
whatever you're searching for. But what happens is that the AI, algorithms are able to present to the human. Well, first allow the human to communicate with it using
Yeah.
human language. That's huge because otherwise humans have to communicate with computers using buttons and drop downs. Okay, but it allows the human to communicate their intent to the algorithm using human language. That's very huge, not to be, minimized. But then it's able to bring back to the human again in human language and with images. That is extremely powerful, and that is where I feel the real revolution is. Um, that in programming, using AI for programming. But that's what I really feel that it is that the computer is able to communicate with the human using human language,
Yeah.
and that's huge. And that's why, like I said, I use all the different services, Google's, OpenAI's, yeah, Google OpenAI's, Anthropic's, Microsoft Copilot. All day long, I'm using those tools to do everything,
Yeah.
write emails, create project plans. I mean, because I can just tell it, do this thing, and it's so yeah, I'm that guy.
Well, I mean, no, and I think it's good because I think if you effectively know how to leverage AI to augment the
Yeah,
work that you're doing, I think that you are going to be successful. I think
yeah,
people that look to AI as a replacement for work is not the
yeah,
ideal like lens, right? And I think that's the like the best way to describe that is like building software, right? And you know, from your perspective, like obviously you use different AI tools to generate
yeah,
code for software, but like,
yeah.
how do you intercept that flow? How do you put Michael into the equation? Because you talk to a lot of people, it's like, oh yeah, like it builds my spec kit, it builds
Yeah.
my code, it builds all the test cases, it reviews all the code, it runs all the test cases, and it deploys it for me. And I just basically have to eat a sandwich at my desk, right? Like, how do you, Michael, like actually doing practical implementation of these things, like insert yourself into the conversation?
Well, I always say only humans have intent.
Yeah.
And um, so the AI technology is always responding to human intent. So therefore, my job is to create the intention. which is usually to respond to somebody who needs something.
Yep.
Um, so my programming workflow is I spend a lot of time creating the prompt to tell the AI to create a prompt.
Sure. Sure.
So I basically say, create an MD file, um, that will do this thing. And then I look at it, and usually it's this long, thing, and it's saying, okay, the program should do this and do this and do this. And then I'll go, nope, nope, I need you to change this, change this, change this. Okay, break that plan up into multiple plans. Okay, now I'm gonna go into those. So now the data layer plan is different than the front end plan, and that's it. So my programming these days is telling, as much detail as possible, the prompt that I then say, okay, this huge MD file or multiple MD files, they look good. Now code it. Um, and then at that point, you then come back and then, deal with all the stuff. So that's it. So I feel I'm still programming. So people are like, that's
Yep.
not programming. Dude, what? If I'm the one constantly going back and forth, spending an hour or more to go back and forth to come up with a plan that it then uses to code, I'm sorry, that's coding.
Yeah. Yeah.
you know,
No.
so that's my thing. Is
Yeah.
that I'm the person creating the intent, and I'm sorry, I'm still doing it as far as I'm concerned.
Oh, I very much agree. Like I am. I've said this 1,000 times, so I apologize that anybody who's listening who's like Isaac, you said this. Like when you are a software engineer or a developer or whatever, this has been your job in tech. Your job has
Right,
never been to write code. Your job has been to take input, do stuff, and then validate output.
right,
That is your job. Like
yep,
whether it's typing keys or drop downs or slider bars or whatever it is, right? Like the stuff in the middle is variable. But at the
right,
end of the day, you have to process input and validate output. And as long as you are doing those two things, you are developing software. And I, I and I hope this isn't a spicy take for people, but I think that we overcomplicate what being a software developer is.
right.
You know, I think a lot of it has to do with, 10, 15 years ago, like how did you grade a good developer, right? How many lines of code could they write,
Right.
right? And I think that we've had this mindset since then that like, oh, the more lines of code you generate, the better developer you are, or the more sophisticated algorithms you can write, the better developer you
Yeah.
are, or whatever, right? And I, as somebody who doesn't have either of those skills, I would always push back and say, well, isn't the real job of software developers is to be able to effectively solve problems using whatever tools you have in your in your view, right? And I would love to hear from you, like, what are those tools like for you? Like, Michael has an idea, they sit down at their desk. Like, walk through your thought process a little bit. Like, what tools do you gravitate towards? Like, what tools do you kind of stay away from? Like, I'd kind of like to like, what's your daily driver, so to speak, for building today?
So it's interesting. It's a great question because um, I strongly believe, and I didn't. It's something I came into understanding, say, in only the last, say, 15 years. But the only thing that really matters is the people.
Sure.
And we are so blessed to be able to make such a good living doing something that's enjoyable. But in the end, the only thing that matters is there's humans who are trying to produce, to be productive. And we are simply a tool to allow something real to get done. you know so
Yeah.
whether or not I work for Uber Eats, or I work for some maybe government agency, or maybe I work on Facebook or something. The point is, which of course would be, people want to be entertained and they want to communicate with their family and friends, or you know so we our job is only to allow someone who's really trying to get something done in the real world
Yep.
to get their thing done. So, to answer your question, whenever people, come to me with a thing and they're paying me so I can make a living, I basically say, let's do this as accurately as possible, um, as economically as possible, and as quickly as possible, and make sure it's maintainable and adaptable.
Hmm.
Again, lately, the Microsoft technologies are that. One of the reasons why I really hated the Angular thing was it was so hard that new developers, it was so hard and it was so fragile. People would break things and they're spending all day going, well, the node thing is that. I'm like, we're not delivering the product, or we're taking more time and more money to deliver the final product to the end user, and that's all that matters. No one cares about, oh, I really got my development environment is really perfect, and that they don't care. In the end,
Yeah.
there are people who need stuff done. Get it done.
Yeah.
So, and that's like I said, the reason why like a lot of Microsoft technologies like Blazor, I could take someone who has never touched Blazor, and in one day, that person, and this is before AI, in one day, that person can make a thing for someone who needs that thing done, and they get it done. With AI now, oh my God, we can take someone comes up with a problem, and we can have an entire production ready website done by the end of the week.
Yeah.
I mean, so that's where I'm saying I use AI because used properly, what we can give the end user is now quicker, more features, period. So people are like anti-AI. I'm like, I'm sorry, folks. This tool can be used to really um, allow people to get what they need done. So I'm sorry, I'm pro AI only because it's a tool that, if properly used, is very, very helpful.
Here's a question, and you can totally dodge it if you want, right? So, as a consultant, as somebody that, like you said, like you go, like company comes to you with a problem and you provide them a solution for money, right?
Yep, yep,
These companies aren't stupid.
right,
They know that Michael is using all the
yep,
tools that Michael has accessible, right?
yep,
Like, how does that conversation get broached? Because 5 years ago, they would come to you with a problem and say, "Hey, Michael, we want this," and you would say, "Oh, it's going to take 3 months," right?
right, yeah.
Right? And you can't quote 3 months anymore,
No, no,
right?
cool.
So how do you square that circle? Like a company or an individual or whoever will come to you with a problem, knowing that you can get it done fast. How do you deal with that? Because at the end of the day,
Actually,
we were
I
talking
have no
about.
problem.
Go ahead. Go
I
ahead.
have
Yeah.
no problem squaring that circle. Here's how I do it. When this AI stuff, I always lead small teams. So my teams are always 2 to 4 developers at the max.
Okay.
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 And a lot of these people I've been working with for a long time. So when this whole AI stuff started happening, and I show them, a little thing, and they're like, "Wait a minute, this thing just coded the what the heck? It was taking me a
Yeah.
week to code this,
Yeah.
and
Sure.
we
Sure.
just did it." So they're like, "We're gonna lose our jobs." And they're going to start, they're not going to need us, and some of these managers who are, they can code stuff themselves. I go, look, that's not how life works.
Exactly.
All that they're going to do is they're going to just ask us to do more.
Yep.
They don't go, wow, AI can do the work of 5 developers, so I only need 1 developer. That's not how things work.
Yeah.
What it means is 5 developers I have will now have to do 5 times as much.
Sure.
So the way I square that circle, as far as, you know people know using AI. So the point is, no, I just have to deliver more. And like I said, because the people matter, the thing that they're trying to get done matters, we should be grateful that we are truly delivering massive increased productivity. Because there was many years, or again, I have to, I feel bad. I keep downplaying Angular, but it's just me personally, my
Sure.
experience. People come to us and they need a website. Okay, the website just to gather some information, right? And then pass that information along to other people. And we would take 4 months or more to make this website
Yeah.
because things are complicated, man. That's not okay with me.
Sure.
That's not okay with me. And most of the time, they just wouldn't. They had things they need, and it's like, I'm sorry, we can't do it because it's too expensive.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? So therefore, things that could have gotten done were not done. With AI, do any little tiny thing. And you know what I'm saying? You can come to, I got this site that only is going to be used by 5 people, but it's kind of important. Back in the day, it's like, well, no, there's no, we can't afford to do that. But now we can.
Yeah.
So that's how I square that circle. The increased productivity is what we should be grateful that we have increased productivity and that
Yeah.
we're not, causing the company to spend so much money on tech, when, uh, and we're not. What are we delivering that's really that's helping the organization at the end to justify our massive cost?
Yeah. I I agree 100% to that. It's funny, like I have a friend who's like a consultant and he's been doing it for a long time. And I asked him this similar question, right? And he said the funniest thing is I can charge more per hour. And I said, "How is that possible?" And he's like, "Because I know how to use these tools and they don't." And when I heard that, like the confidence in being able to go to a company and they're like, and they company knows like, oh, you're going to use AI, so we're gonna, instead of this 3 month project, it's going to be less than a month.
Right.
Like if you do the math, it's like, hey, then that means I'm making less financially. And this person's, I guess, workaround for that is like, well, you can't, company A, you can't use these tools. That's why you're asking me. So my expertise has changed. So now I'm worth more money. And
And also, I would say that for those 3 months, rather than just working for one client, I can now work for 5 clients
yeah,
and plus make more money because you're right. There's a premium, but that premium will go away as time goes on and more people get So I'm saying the new normal is we are just 10 times more productive than we were in the past.
yeah,
End of story. I'm just saying,
yeah,
end of story. Because I honestly feel that we in our industry, the amount of money we make is so much better than the average worker.
oh yeah, yeah,
I feel guilty,
sure,
because I used to
yeah,
work in warehouses and wake up at 4 o'clock, no, be at work at 4 o'clock in the morning in a cold warehouse. Um, your fingers are dirty and I remember just the cold. And I was saying to myself, this is when I was in college back before I got back into programming. Um, and I said to myself, I go, all I want to do is work in a warm office. You know what I'm saying? And so, yeah, I just have a big connection with, I know what hard work is
yeah, yeah,
and low pay is, and the money we make sitting in nice, clean office. You know what I'm saying? We are
yeah,
so
yeah,
blessed
yeah.
that I just, yeah. So that's my
Yeah.
perspective
Well, I
on
struggle with it a ton, right?
it.
Like, I've gone through some situations in my career where I'm like, do I want to be in tech anymore? And I start to think about like, okay, and like I'm in a different level too because I've worked at big tech companies. And
Yeah.
for folks not in the tech
Microsoft
industry,
and yeah.
yeah, like the big tech companies, like it's not like if you're in tech, if you're a software developer at a company, you make this. If you're, the more prestigious the company is, and then we start getting into like these meta companies where they build like developer tools or they build
Yep.
software services, you just end up making more money. And I was having this conversation with my wife, and she was like, "Well, why don't you go back to school and get a degree in this and whatever?" And I said, "I don't know if I can not live with the fact that I'm not making tech money anymore." And
Exactly.
and she looked at me like I was just crazy because we live fine and all of that, and like,
Yeah.
and I'm like, but you like, there's this ego involved with the amount of money that I make and the sort of things that I get to do.
Yep.
And I struggle with that today, where it's just like, okay, do I really need to be making this money? Would I rather be doing something else? But it's like I also enjoy the work, and just so
I
happens
also enjoy the work. Yeah.
the work pays well. So
Pays really well.
yeah.
It's
Uh,
really-
you mentioned something earlier too about like being more productive, and we were talking about this a little bit before we got started about how like all of our dreams are unlocked as technologists now. Like you have an idea for a project or an app or something, and it's like I can't have the time to do that, right? I have a job, a full-time job. I got a family. I got all these things. Like there is no way possible for me to donate a year of my life to build like this thing that I have an idea for, right? And we're like, do you want to talk about some of the things that you've been able to build that like Michael 10 years ago would have never had an opportunity to build?
So since AI, that's really what I'm able to now do. Like I said, I can the blog post I did on the knowledge graphs, I literally knocked out that code over a Saturday and Sunday. It would have taken me months. Um, there's a really big project that I'm working on now called Blazor Data Orchestrator.
Hmm.
It's working with a friend of mine, and you can get to it if you go to blazordata.net. That's how you can get to it. Of course, it's in GitHub. It's completely open source. Um, and it's an application where um, the friend of mine and I were talking about the various problems we've had with tools that basically run batch jobs. And
Yeah.
there's all these different solutions to it, and various. And we just talked and envisioned a tool that can do everything we need it to do, that can handle unlimited jobs, that allowed you to create a job, all the code for a job inside the web browser or Visual Studio. And, it was something that would take a normal company like 10 developers a year to create. And we literally created it over a period of a month
Yeah.
in December, and this is when the big basically the big Anthropic models that came out.
The moment of
So it's
Opus. Yeah.
the
The moment.
the one with Opus. Opus is
Yeah.
what, and to this day, Opus 4.8 is that's my hammer. Opus 5 though is I'm starting to like it, but that tool allowed us to create, which is a huge thing. So I encourage people to give it a try, because the way it works is you download the GitHub project, and it's using Aspire. I love Aspire. Aspire allows for orchestration of containers, which are normally complex, but you just download the project and you hit F5. And what's going to come up is a website. And it's going to basically say, okay, you have no jobs running. And you say, I want to make a new job. You click on it, and it basically opens up a window and says, do you want to upload the code for a job as a NuGet package, or do you want to code it in the web browser? And you say, I want to code it in the web browser. So you click on the button, and then you see the stub of a program. And then you can click the AI button, and you can just tell it what you want. I want you to check these websites, summarize it, and then send me an email. And then boom, it'll write the code.
Hmm.
And then you hit the button, and the code will run. And then
Yeah.
you can say, oh, I want this scheduled at 3 o'clock each day, and it'll just do it. But then you say, well, I have a bigger project. I want to use Visual Studio. So you click a button, and it creates a Visual Studio project, and you open up in Visual Studio, and then you still have AI where you can say, okay, make these changes. Or you can just start coding it yourself. And you can set breakpoints and everything. And when everything's done, you say, okay, create a NuGet package. And then I can then upload that NuGet package back to, this website. So, like I said, that thing does a lot. We built it in our free time. Um, and without AI, we couldn't have built it. Um, but we're very excited about this because it's a lot
Yeah.
what it does, and it's all free. It's all open source, um, and it's just something that we could not have done without AI. Uh, so yeah, I'm very excited about it, and I hope that people try it out. But it's just so fulfilling to be able to create something that we just are like, this thing is beautiful.
Yeah.
Um, and so yeah.
I mean, kudos to you. I think so. As somebody who has always had this problem of like, oh, I have this like little PowerShell thing or this bash command that I need to run occasionally. But
Mhm.
like, like you said, the user interfaces to run these things is not ideal. I gotta like
Yep.
edit a cron job or I gotta
Yep.
set up like a scheduled
Yep.
task in Windows. It sucks,
Yep.
right? It just
Right.
sucks. The UI sucks because
Yep.
at the end of the day, it's not built for a normal person. They're
Right.
built for people like us, right?
Yep.
And
And we like
the
complexity.
yeah, we like complexity and like we like just tinkering with stuff. And the ability to do these things and it's user accessible, like non-technical user accessible is awesome.
Yep.
Um And there'll be a link to blazerdata.net in the show notes as well.
Yep.
So I highly
Hmm.
recommend check it out. Like Michael said, it's
Yep.
free. It's not like
Yep.
it's gonna, you're not gonna pay
MIT
Michael five
license.
bucks. Yeah,
Yep.
you can pay
MIT
Michael if you
license.
want.
Oh,
If you want like a
yep.
better,
Sure.
yeah. But and you mentioned something too, like the idea. It's like unlocking potential, right? You know, one of the things that I'm really enjoying about this is like I'm able to build things that I would have never built in the past. Like I've built Chrome
Exactly.
extensions and I've built Stream Deck
Exactly.
plugins and I've done all these things.
Right.
But there are a few things that I haven't figured out how to effectively use AI for. And, you know, they're like you were talking about people stuff. And how do you get people to effectively use these tools not like hammers, right? Like
Right.
instead of using them like screwdrivers with more finesse. Because there is this idea, and we were talking about this a little bit before we got started. It's like, do I care about actual technology anymore? Do I care about what's new in the language? Do I care about what's new in the framework? Do I care about these new npm or NuGet package or pip packages that are coming out? Do I
Right.
care about any of this stuff? Because I can go to a prompt, I could type up a couple of paragraphs, I could enter, and then something that would have taken me a year has now taken me 35 seconds. So, how do you talk through the idea of caring about technology still? Because I'm struggling with this. There are times where something new will come out, and Isaac 3 years ago would have been super excited, like the most excited ever. And now I ask myself, when will I ever need to use that? So, like, I'd love to hear your thoughts on that statement.
Well, I'm kind of with you. It's been, I've been programming for over 40 years, so many different technologies that I really, it's not so much that I care about the technology. I enjoy certain technologies. Like I said, Blazor, I just enjoy. It's easy to use. It's easy to train developers in and that sort of thing. Um, but specific things that come and go, it's the results. It's always the results. It's funny. It's something that popped into my head as you were talking. There was uh, something recently that I've learned to use was um, I had a situation last week where the developers who normally handle certain applications were on vacation, and we got some serious production errors, and um, we had to deal with it. And for the first time, I there was all this email thread going back and forth with people with pictures and all that sort of stuff. And I basically go, you know what? I'm going to turn this email into a PDF because that's what AI likes. I like PDFs. And I am just going to open up the project in Visual Studio Code because that's where I do all my AI programming. And I just put the PDF with this long email thread, I just put it in there and I said to the AI, please tell me how to fix this issue.
Sure.
And it came up, he diagnosed the issue perfectly, indicated, what to do, blah, blah, blah. And of course, we're on a Teams call, and the other developers are like watching this, and they're just like, is this really happening?
Yeah. Yeah.
So um, there was a situation where um, normally it would have been like, I have all my experience and I should be able to figure this out and I should be able to, and it's just like, I don't know, with this whole new AI stuff, I'm willing to let go of the I don't care how the problem's solved. I'm just concentrated on solving the problem.
Yeah.
Um, so it's a weird feeling. But and again, it's about the productivity. It would have taken days to solve this
Yeah.
particular issue that I'm describing, and we were able to basically resolve it within a couple of hours. And even more than that, I told the AI, I said, you know what? Write the email back to the end users to explain to them what we're doing, and the whole 9 yards, and even wrote the email back. And I was able to immediately come back to the end users with this long email explaining everything to them. Uh, yeah. So, yeah.
Well, I mean, it sounds to me like you've accepted the fact that your job has changed completely, which
Completely.
I mean,
Completely.
which I think I, you know, like you said, you've been doing this long enough to see things come and go, and I think we've had to kind of adapt ourselves many times in tech over the years of like, okay, like now we care about like DevOps. Now we care about, you
Yep.
know, code being able to run everywhere. Now we care about
Yep.
like millions of people wanting to hit our services at the same time. Like we didn't care
Yep.
about those things, right?
Yep.
And now we're at this point where it's like, well, writing code is kind of free,
It
right?
is.
Like writing code is kind of free. And but there are other parts of the world that, in my opinion, and we were talking about this before we got started again, where I think we both believe that AI is not a solution to an existing problem.
Right.
And, there's a lot of anxiety in the world about, you know, not just in tech, but in general. It's like, okay, is AI going to get to the point where traditional jobs are no longer needed and all these things? And you made a pretty bold statement. I read your blog post from a couple of days ago too. Do you want to talk about like Michael's opinion of what the future of like AI in general is?
Well, as far as its true usefulness, it's in programming.
Yeah. Is
It
that it
talks to
though?
code.
Is that pretty much it?
Well,
Or
not completely it.
very repetitive tasks, but like specialized tasks, not so much.
Um, I guess the biggest thing is AI is not going to replace humans. Essentially, all that happened was everyone was using a hammer and nails to build things, and then someone came out with a nail gun.
Sure,
A nail
sure.
gun is so much faster than a hammer. It's unbelievable. But guess what? There's just as many people, on the construction site. They're just moving faster. AI, it's an incredible tool, but all that it does is allows the humans to do more faster.
Hmm.
And that to me is it. It affects programming so much because programming is a special situation where what AI produces is the end product.
Hmm.
It also is the case with writing. So, whereas other technologies, what AI does, it's not the end product,
Yeah.
right? So, for example, project plans, I use it for a lot of project plans, but the project plan requires a bunch of humans to get together and do some stuff. So, the project plan is not the end product. But program is kind of special, right? I
Yeah.
tell the AI, create this code, and me as a programmer, that is my end product.
Yeah.
Now, again, the website I'm creating um, is not the end product. A human using that is truly the end product. But me as a programmer, my domain is just to write the code. AI gives me the end product. So that's why I feel that programming is something I especially call out as this is one where it massively changes, the productivity is massive, and it truly is the hype. But when they're saying that, oh, AI is going to make people unemployed, and we're all going to be living on government assistance, and we're all just gonna and AI and the robots are gonna run everything. I'm sorry, no, stop, stop, stop.
Uh, Yeah. Now, as you were saying something, I had a bit of an epiphany. I've said for a long time that there are direct similarities between technology and creative arts, right? Like playing
Right.
music or drawing or
Yep.
whatever.
Yep.
And I've always kind of equated that to like the ability to like write code. Up until about 30 seconds ago when you were explaining
Right.
something. And the creativity in technology is not writing code, it's the idea. And
The intention, what I call
the
what I call the intention,
yeah. And
the desire.
I think the way that I'm going to phrase this from now forward is that you have an idea, the time that it takes for you to get your idea to actual something is how fast you can type, right? And if now you can type 400,000 words per minute,
Right.
so at the end of the day, you're still doing the idea, you're still doing all the stuff. It's just that you've been taken you like the necessity to type or the dependency on your typing speed is no longer a thing.
Something else I want to share with you. One of the greatest programmers I ever knew, this guy named Richard Waddell. Um, he's like I think 72 73 or 74 now. Um, and he didn't retire until like only about maybe 5 years ago. Programming with punch cards, and he would
Yeah.
tell us because I mean, his programming is you just this code was just you look at it, it's beautiful, and other
Sure.
programmers on the team would go, they go, I see this guy's code and I want to stop programming because I don't know anything. This guy's code was so beautiful, and he explained why his code, well, this is how I do it. He was programmed with punch cards, and with punch cards, you literally have to punch the cards very, very carefully because you had to take it to the operator who ran the program, and you got the results the next day.
Yeah.
That's real programming. Everything else we're doing is just an abstraction on top of
Sure.
that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and the thing was that hearing about programming from his perspective, which is just so to the core, and how his skills throughout, the Angular, he did Angular with me and the C Sharp with me and the whole 9 yards. But he, the human, is the guy who created the intention throughout all these technologies so that when I look at this AI stuff, I'm just like, it's just another abstraction
Yeah.
on top of it. I'm still the same programmer I was before AI was actually doing the typing. Just
Yeah.
like when he went from punch cards, where you truly were, I mean, talking to the registers in the system, to these, now we're writing this thing on a page. That's not the real programming. This thing
Yeah.
is compiled into IL code, which is the real stuff.
Yeah.
So I guess that is something that really sticks with me whenever I think about this stuff that you and I are talking about. That this guy Richard, the greatest programmer I ever knew, the man started with punch cards, and that was real programming.
I I use this anecdote all the time, right? Like the entire all the things that we're doing, all the things we're talking about, all the innovation, exciting things, we've just really like tricked sand to be intelligent.
We
Like
did.
I think
We did.
somebody else is like we mixed dirt with lightning. I've heard that before.
Yep.
Um, and when you put that into perspective, like you're very right. Like there's just layer upon layer upon layer upon layer upon layer. And I was explaining this to somebody, like about how these different like, you know, people were able to put like a spacecraft on the moon,
Yep.
like just by typing things out, like, and we've all seen the picture of one of the engineers for NASA with the stack of paper that's taller than her, and that's the code that put one of the Apollo missions into
Oh,
space,
and
right?
one quick thing about that, which just blows my mind, was the computer, the memory, which is like less than a calculator that we have today. It literally had to dump the entire program away to clear memory to load the new program.
Yeah.
So you're in outer space, you've taken off, you have to dump the memory in that computer because it's so small, load the new program to tell you how to orbit the moon. These people were insane,
Yes.
but
Yes, they were.
that's what people are able to do. So
Yeah.
yeah, I love the story about how we got to the moon on computers that we would not even call a computer. We would call it an overgrown calculator.
Yeah. And now, like, if you work on some open source projects, like your open source project is literally putting people into space today, which is even like, we've gone in the last 70 years, we've gone from, like you said, that very, in my opinion, in your opinion, insane process to put people
Yep.
on another, celestial body to literally some random guy who is coding in his spare time in
Yep.
his guest bedroom
Yep.
has code that is helping people also get into space, which is wild, right? Anyway, uh Michael, this has been great. Like I really appreciated, being able to catch up with you and hear your insights about how, you thought about solving problems for all these years and how you're using new tools to do the same thing and being successful at it. And for folks that aren't following Michael today, there'll be some links down in the show notes. You're
Yep.
on social media a couple different places.
Yep.
One place is yeah, is it so do you have the same is a def web server on Blue Sky and Twitter?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, so you can
Actually, I'm no longer on Twitter, so
okay.
but basically it's Blue Sky, um, and I got a YouTube channel, so
Yep.
they're all ADEF Web Server.
Yep.
And that's pretty much the two places that I am. And then, of course, my two blogging sites, blazerhelpwebsite.com
Yep.
and blazerdata.net. And yep, that's how to find me.
Yeah. And for folks that actually want to go out to Blue Sky right now, so ADEF web server is
Yep,
ADEFWEBSERVER. And again,
.com.
.com, and there'll be links
Or
to
no, it's
show.
already well, .com.
Well,
Also,
yeah,
I have my website,
there'll
but just ADEF Web Server is
yeah,
the
there'll be links
URL.
to
Yeah.
show notes and all the other in the show notes to all the cool things, as well as a link to the orchestrator that he was talking about, the
Yep.
being able to run custom jobs and
Yep.
not having to care about all of the antiquated processes that we currently use.
Nope. Does it for
Um,
you.
before we sign off, my friend, do you have any parting words?
No, I really, thanks for having me on. I love talking about this stuff. Um, and my real parting words, I guess, is um, just that I'm grateful.
Yeah.
I'm extremely grateful. Um, Otherwise, yeah, I have no words. So,
Well, I'm grateful that you took the opportunity to chat with me. I know that you have to be super productive now because you have 15 clients at once and they expect you to ship code tomorrow. So I appreciate your time. It was great catching up with you, and I want to thank the people that were watching the show live and the people that are watching or listening in the future. My name is Isaac Levin. This has been Coffee and Open Source, and if you like this episode, maybe watch some other ones and then share with your friends, obviously, so we can get the word out. And I hope you enjoyed this. And, for my friend Michael, I hope you have a great rest of your day. Take care. And we're out.